Right then. The danger of this conversation is that I'm from Yorkshire, you're from Yorkshire. I don't get to speak to many people from Yorkshire in my day to day. And every time I speak to someone from Yorkshire, I always end up getting a bit ilkley Morbat. I end up getting a bit. I end up getting a bit Yorkshire. So I fully expect by the end of this conversation, my wife's going to be like, "What's happened to you?"
I'll give away my rate.
I mean, we are different. We are different parts of Yorkshire. I'm Doncaster.
Oh,
But when I was a kid, I should say, I'm going to get all this out of the way from the beginning. When I was a kid, I used to go. Well, a teenager, I would sometimes go to Bradford, and I would just spend. Me and my mates would spend ages thinking, "Oh, we're gonna see a member of Terrorvision." And I think at one point we did see Mark in a club, and that was very exciting. Also, How to Make Friends and Influence People was. I mean, I don't think it's the first album I buy, but it's there or thereabouts. Today I was listening to it today, and I was listening to Middleman, and I was like, I was at Scout Camp like 30 years ago. It was definitely it pulled me back into a more fledgling time.
yeah, music does that, doesn't it?
Absolutely,
Yeah. I
absolutely.
hear the Carpenters. I'm sat in the back of my mum's car, and I must be so young that my feet don't even bend at the knees yet because my legs aren't long enough in the back of the car.
I've
So
always,
it's like
I've always,
evocative.
I've always been interested with the Carpenters. I love the Carpenters, by the way. I've always been
Mm.
interested, like, because I always think that music does sound from so long ago, but I almost wonder when it came out if it sounded like it was from so long ago. Like it just doesn't feel like it just feels classic, and I just wonder whether it felt like that on release.
Well, it was like there was so many classics because I think that all different genres of music have their own classics, don't they? That cross over everything.
Yeah,
Um, and so, yeah, I think that just like every soul record was a classic, every rock record was a classic. You know what I mean? It was every pop record, they all were playing it. You know what I mean?
yeah. There's just a kind of a grace to that band a grace to those songs, which just seems I don't know, just seems as
It's
ancient.
also with the Carpenters, though, it was because they were brother and sister, weren't they?
Yeah.
And they melded so perfectly with her voice and his chords and stuff like that and sentiments in the songs, and they put their hearts on the sleeves, didn't they?
Have you ever seen any video of her playing drum solos?
Yeah, yeah, with the flowery dresses on. Well, the flouncy cuts.
Amazing, amazing player, like amazing player. Just
Yeah,
ridiculous, just ridiculous.
she
Anyway, I
played the
did.
song.
Anyway, I didn't get Tony from Terrorvision on the podcast to talk to him about the Carpenters, as enjoyable as that would be. Um, I guess the thing with this podcast is that I interview a lot of bands who've got music out right now that I really like or I want to speak to. But I've sort of increasingly been trying to tick off people who made music that mattered to me when I was growing up because for whatever reason, I wrote for magazines for 20 plus years and our paths never crossed. Because pretty much as I kind of get into it, a year before that is like your first split. Is basically kind of when television go away. And what I was thinking about when I was thinking, what am I going to ask you? I was thinking it's like it's sort of easy to forget just how if you were into quote unquote guitar music, rock music, whatever, just how just what a big deal Terrorvision were in like British rock, like throughout my teenage years. But actually, it kind of came and went quite quick. Do you think that's fair to say?
Um, I'd say, I mean, because to us, we were just a band from Bradford. So I don't know where your class has been at a point where you should be because it were like it went up in a curve. So
Yeah,
everything was great. So we might have stopped too early. We might not have done. There's a lot of like demographics to take in, isn't there? You know.
Well, have you questioned that? Like when you, because I guess what I'm trying to say is, so I get how to make friends and influence people, like pretty much when it comes out because I hear Middleman on the radio. That's
Yeah.
like that's 94, and I didn't know a lot about how music works or how bands worked or whatever at that point. So I was like amazed when I learned there was a record before that, which is Formaldehyde, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I was,
So
I was surprised. I was like, oh, there's a record before this, and I'm going to ask you about Formaldehyde in a minute. But from that point on, you're in Kerrang all the time. You're doing Nevermind the Buzzcocks. You're on Top of the Pops, and there's like this big hit singles, Tequila, for example. But then, kind of 2 years after Tequila, which is by any stretch of the imagination a hit, you go away, and I wonder whether in the years that have passed you have thought maybe we should have stuck around longer.
no, I think we stopped at the right time. You know, there is a demographic of you. You know, when you're however old you are, 20 to 18 to 25, in that age, and whether you're in the band or go to gigs, you're all in it together, yeah. But the difference is when you're in the band, you're still going to the gigs when other people have got bills to pay and kids to feed and mortgages and marriages and all that chiseled, you know what I mean? Whereas
Yeah,
we're on the road, that's what we do, playing. So you notice a few people less and less come out because of those reasons, do you know what I mean? And I see it now because we did like 3 gigs and there were like, I don't know, 6,000 people over 3 gigs last weekend. And it's because now their kids are coming out with them. I think the kids are driving. That's why they brought them to the gigs. So the crowds are bigger.
yeah, yeah,
We've all got the mortgages paid off and, they're comfy, whatever. So they're
yeah.
playing out again.
I
As
think
far
you
as
also, I think you also reach a point in your life where you go, you kind of want to, like, you want to reconnect with the person you were all the time that you enjoyed so much when you were younger as well.
yeah, start searching eBay for Meccano and shizzle like that,
Exactly, exactly. You speak
A
the
rally
language,
grifter. I really need a rally grifter.
mate. Mate, a couple of years ago, I went crazy and started buying boglins.
What buglins?
Oh, well, this will be you're about 10 years older than me, but boglins were like they were like a repulsive like toy puppet. They were like little goblins, right? And they came in like a little cage. They were amazing. But when I was a kid, they were amazing. I love all that stuff. I'm into like horror and everything. But they were for
Right.
kid. They were for kids and stuff. But I really wanted one when I was a kid, and my mum was like, "You can't have one. It'll scare you." And then I just waited until I was 35 and just had disposable income and just bought shitloads of them on eBay, and now they're all in my office, and I don't really know what to do with them, to be honest. But such
You
is
know what
life.
I call that? I call that because there's stuff in your life you're not allowed, isn't there? And you get to a point where you can have it, and
Yeah,
it's not. Some people say it's a midlife crisis, right? But I say it's a midlife realization. You know what I mean? There's no wrong with it. There's no crisis going on. Do you know what I mean? I feel quite good about having this new motorbike and that new guitar. You know what I mean? It's fantastic.
yeah.
I just realised I needed them in my life. So
But
don't feel bad about buying a load of what called boglins.
Boglins,
Yeah,
getting
grab your boglins, get them out.
yeah, absolutely. If I if
Get
I
a t-shirt printed, get your boglins out.
if I come see Terrorvision again, I'm going to bring my boglin or
Oh, like to see your boglin.
one of my
Yeah.
boglins. There are multiple. It's,
I've like rare ones and stuff like that.
no, that's still to come. Uh, going going back to the band. So I was saying that I was amazed when I heard that you had a record out before How to Make Friends and Influence People. When I heard about Formaldehyde, because you know what you like when you're a kid, and you're like, oh, I know what this band is, and I like this record. It's amazing. Oh, there's another record. But I guess that when I got a bit older and started to, became a music journalist and worked for the rock press and knew a bit more about Terrorvision, like when you come out of the gates, like when you make your first record, you're kind of like a quintessential British heavy metal band, really, aren't you? Like literally down to spoilt brats with a Z.
I think we wear some of our influences on our sleeves, but I'd
Yeah,
say, yeah, I don't think we're. You see, not classic rock,
yeah,
just British rock, not classic rock, because we were learning how to play still and chisel like stuff like that, Um, so yeah, I'd say we were a lot. When we made out and make friends and influence people, we made it with Gil Norton,
yeah,
producer. A producer is a job for a reason, and it's to make it more the kind of thing you play on the radio. So even on Out and Make Friends, I still think, God, them guitars could have roared a bit more. Do you know what I mean? So
right.
when we play them live, you can let them roar, and it's why there's live and there's record, isn't there? But you don't realise that when someone's judging it all out for you, and you want it to hurt. You know what I mean? But that's what a producer does, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think you maybe undersell your own contributions there a little bit because it felt, Middleman aside, which I know I've said this about 3 times now, but that song is incredible. You there's a from sort of that point on there's a sense of sort of humour to what you do, not a sort of comedy, but there's like I don't know, there's a bit of glam, there's some razzmatazz, like down to the suits you were wearing on top of the pops. Like it wasn't like you were sort of a sort of a Gumby kind of heavy metal band anymore. You were almost sort of like a Britpop band, but from a different world.
We were just, we were doing all right, and because you can, innit? You know what I mean? It's a show, innit? You should make an effort. So, of course, if you've got some spare brass, then you can make an effort. And
Yeah,
it's bonkers because people are like, "Oh, you look a bit bonkers dressing like that at, a metal event where everyone's dressed in black." You know what I mean? And the
yeah,
black printed T-shirts, trying to get the ink blacker on the print that they're printing on the blackest T-shirt. And it's. But do you know what we used to find? Well, when we played at Donington, do you know what I mean? Out
yeah,
between Pantera and Sepultura or something. And it's like I'm there in a suit that I bought from Oxfam. I can't remember the size of it, but it was massive. It was like out of the Guinness Book of Records or something. And I had that on for some strange reason, but I liked it because it were like weird patterns on it.
yeah,
And standing at curtain looking, and then people started to come over the hill. Well, they've been to see Pantera or Sepultura, and they were going to go see the next band. And you know what? When we played Oblivion there, I remember just thinking, "Come on, put your hands in the air! It's a party." You know what I mean?
yeah,
And they all did. So for that moment, it wasn't. It's it. That's the sort of humour side of it, I'd say. Because from that moment, it was about letting go and not being as metal as you possibly can for a weekend. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Whoa, don't listen to that shit. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was a bit more of that in that era though as well. I mean, without getting kind of too heavy, I always think that my teens, it was like as I got closer to being 20, and I turned 20, like the millennium. Maybe I'm young, so you see the world in a different way, but I think the world felt like it got very serious, and like consequently music. Like sometimes now when I hear a Radiohead song from that era, I always go, what are you banging on about, lads? Things aren't bad. Things are going to get much worse. And like that era of music, which obviously you were so prominent in, what there was a lot of fun in it. The world felt a bit lighter.
I think people. I mean, the internet. Everyone's on everything on the internet, aren't they now?
Yeah,
And it's short, sharp things. Some of it we have to read, and if you have to read, it's better be true because reading's well hard, isn't it? So it's like I'm talking from personal experience here. There's a reason why a headline and then subheadlines are great because you don't have to read the little letters. But I think we were writing songs then, like Friends and Family. I don't know if you remember Friends and Family.
oh yeah,
It's a Terrorvision song then, and that's about it wasn't a premonition, but it was the same then as it is now. It was the same then. I was saying I don't need a proof of ID to see I'm you and you're me. Do you know what I mean? I don't need that.
Yeah.
It's someone who isn't out like us that wants us to have these proofs of ID. I was saying it then. I wrote, did things like didn't bleed red. You know what I mean? If
Yeah.
that were like a prophecy of the rise of Pretty Patel, wouldn't it? You know, the aliens are coming. Someone told me the aliens are coming. I'd be so excited. Do you know what I mean? To run and go and say hello. And people go, aliens are coming. Hang on, I'm coming with you. Just going to get me gun. It's like, that's the mentality of the world, isn't it?
Oh, I
It's
like.
always been the same. So I think we've always had quite political words. You know, stop the bus.
Yeah.
So I live on a train. I have to live on a train because they built the motorway through my house. So all that stuff. Do you know what I mean? Demolition. So there's so much of it, and then some of it's just about the non-political bits, I suppose. And it wasn't all political. It wasn't a rant, but I suppose it was a way of venting those frustrations and dancing them out of your system rather than just spending all day on freaking Twitter or something. Do you know what I mean? Losing 24 hours typing about how you're free and everyone else is a sheep. And it's like, turn your phone off and go for a walk, and then you'll see how what freedom is. Do you know what I mean? There's no one stopping you. Go for a walk up Mars. But then I don't want to go for a walk up Mars because then I won't be feel as free as I do when I'm up there.
Yeah, I always feel the moors. Some darkness to the moors, isn't there?
There's a solitude to the Mars, and it
Well,
has darkness, and it has excitement, and it has real chill and real warmth. It's the Mars the people have gone on the Mars forever.
the aliens are coming there, don't you?
Yeah,
Like, like,
yeah.
like, I genuinely believe this. Like, we are on the road to disclosure.
Do you reckon? I think there's got to be some, aren't there? How absolutely what is it narcissistic of us to think that we are the only ones that exist? How great are we? We don't even know what's under the water in the sea. So
Well,
why? You know what I mean?
funnily enough, a lot of the things. I mean, I'm quite into ufology. A lot of the things that we're seeing in the sky, a lot of people believe that actually they're coming from beneath the water, as opposed to another planet.
Right. So yeah, yeah.
Why not?
Well, it's as good a remedy as all else, isn't it? Do you know
Get
what I
get
mean? We've got to at some point. I mean, space is so big. You're not going to drive past another spaceship coming all the way, are you? That would be just lucky, wouldn't it?
Yeah, there's some. Again, it's probably. I mean, people who listen to this podcast probably get really pissed off with me talking about UFOs with musicians that come on the podcast. But you should look into a guy. There's a guy called David Grush. Have you heard of that guy?
No.
He's like I can't remember what his exact title was, but he worked within like the US government, within intelligence, and he's basically been a whistleblower. He's basically said, look, the certain thing. He said all this on oath. He said this in Congress.
It's
There was a here.
David Gruff, you say?
David Grush, like Gurch. I think I've got that right. Maybe there's an S in there. And he said all this stuff on oath that he's basically claimed that there's been a reverse engineering program for decades, and there's been this like cover up since Roswell, and he talks about how there was a UFO that crashed in Italy, and how the Vatican worked with the US government to keep it from Mussolini, like bold, like real extraordinary claims. But him saying all this stuff on oath is kind of quite remarkable, actually. And my belief is that it's all part of a controlled rollout of this information. Like, I think that we're getting prepped. But the thing that's amazing is when that happened. I mean, I'm so into it that I swiped what I was doing that day so I could watch the hearing in Congress, and it was just remarkable to me that this was as credible a claim as I've ever heard, in the sense of this guy's credentials within the military and such like. And there was no mention of it on the BBC, and you were like, surely this is more important than Nigel Farage going into I'm a Celebrity, surely, but there you go.
don't know. Him being in jungle probably might have more effect on the world or our world than
That is very pragmatic.
But do you know, I'm from Bradford, so growing up as a kid, I used to listen to Pennine Radio, and on night time, I'd tune in. James Whale used to be on there, and there'd always be people from Todmorden regularly ringing in on Edge at Moor. If you look outside now, look up, they're there. Three of them in a triangle. Look up there now. And they were always from like Denholm and Todmorden. But that was the darkest part, so they would see stuff. And I lived on the moor. I saw shooting stars and stuff like that. But I never saw anything that wasn't a shooting star or a meteor, unless they were driving them. Who's to say they're not coming in on them?
Who's to say? How do you learn how to do dry stone walling?
Right. I just learned how to do it because I lived on the moors and I would own dad with my kids, bringing them up, doing stuff, taking them to the moors. So I didn't have a right lot of like time to sort of duo. And I thought when I looked out of my window, you'll know yourself, the Yorkshire moors are divided by this patchwork quilt of dry stone walls, chopping up the landscape. And I just thought, we give out Turner Prize and stuff, right, to people, and they get money for it and they become famous. And yet, what I look at has to be one of the greatest works of art ever. And I'd just like to have my line on a landscape that I can always say, nobody knows that's me, but I know it's me. And do it from an art point of view, not trying to keep the shaping point of view. And so I learned how to do it properly. I'm really, really slow at it, really slow. But that's because I piss about and I do stuff like if the one that I built, the line on the landscape that I actually did, and then I kind of stopped after that, was on this farm and they had kids. And so obviously sometimes dry stone wall get knocked down because cars hit it. So there'll be bits of mirror about. Anyway, I got some bits of mirror and I put them into the wall and I told the kids there was someone in the wall and if you look into that crack there, you'll see them looking back. So there was an eye looking back at them, do you know what I mean? And I'd do stuff like that and put time capsules in them. I even put a fake Rolex watch that I bought when I was in New York. I put that at the bottom of this dry stone wall and thought, in 3 weeks when this wall falls down, someone will find that. No, I thought, in 100 years' time, when this needs mending or this is changed, someone will find that and they'll go, no fucking way, I've just found a Rolex watch.
I love that.
And so that's why I learned how to do it. And the formula is a piece of piss. The putting into practice, piling rocks up all day is the hardest part. Turning
I mean, you say you learned how to do it. I mean, how though? Like, it is famously people talk about dry stone walling as like a great achievement of like early humans. Like, how do you learn how to do it? Like YouTube tutorials or?
No. I lived on the moors just about, and there's farms about. There was
Right.
a young lad, hard worker, great lad, Tom. He needed some help, so I was lugging stones about for him, and he was teaching me. But like I say, it's an A-frame, right? The height of your wall, if your wall's 6 foot high, the bottom of your wall has to be 3 foot wide, and the top of your wall has to be 1.5 foot wide. So that's your A-frame. And then you put all the big stones at the bottom, and then you pillow, and every so often you put a stone through to tie the two sides together, fill it with middles, and then it's on earth, isn't it? So as the earth moves, it articulates and it actually gets stronger. They're amazing things.
Yeah.
But they're so simple, so simple.
But at what point do you put the Rolex watch in?
When I was sort of going to get to a point where I was going to build something of mine. I did something on my house, actually. I built like this retaining wall at the back of my house, and in there, so when you wall, sometimes you'll find a stone and it might be hollowed out. Do you know what I mean? hollowed like that, and it's just a stone. It's got this divot in it, and it's called. It can be what's known as a vinegar bowl, right? And a vinegar bowl is a dry stone, a wall, and the stone would have vinegar in it, and people would put their silver coins into it and put it back in the wall. So when you looked at a dry stone wall, how do you know which one's got the silver coins in it? It's just thousands and thousands of rocks in it. You know what I mean? So your stuff's safe. So I built one. I got a rock and I drilled it and dug a proper little like square hole in it and built this massive wall at the back of my house. And then built a chamber with a box where this stone is a box and it just slides in. I don't even know if the people who live there now know it's there. But it's just a great place to keep your keys when you get home and you've lost the keys.
Do you know what? There's many things. There's many things that make me feel sad that my dad's not here anymore. But that little tutorial on dry stone walling made me really miss my dad, because I was thinking he wouldn't be listening to my podcast. My dad, he didn't, he wasn't a great one for supporting my creative endeavours. But I think if I'd said to him, "Oh, I'm speaking to a bloke about dry stone walling," I think he might have made the effort. I think he would have enjoyed that.
Well, it covers both sides because we're still working within the boundaries of rock.
Oh,
Like
hello.
literally.
I thought that I've got an older brother. I've got an older half brother who's, I mean, he's kind of the reason why I got into metal when I was a kid. He's 60, and he went to Monsters of Rock and all that, and he was my hero when I was a kid. And he did an Open University course in like the study of rock. What do you call that?
Rockology.
Rockology. I can't. There is a name for it, but it's above my pay grade. And when I was a kid, I remember just thinking it was hilarious that he studied rock, but he liked rock. So you've just thrown my teenage joke
Geology.
back at me.
Geology, sorry.
That's
You're
the
talking.
one. That's the one. That's the one.
I have quite a big thing about megaliths and
Oh,
cromlechs and dolmens and crags and kirks and stuff like that are out on the moors that are rocks. Sometimes they've got legends behind them. Like I love the fact there's a big rock called the Hitching Stone. It's massive. It's the size of a house, but it's like square. It's like a cube, like a dice. And
yeah.
apparently that was flicked by a witch who lived over on the other moor, and she didn't like it in a view, so she flicked it with a broom and it landed on top of our moor.
Un,
But I
unlucky.
love that. And it's thousands of years it's been there. So people will have met there because it is such a landmark. They won't have gone on the A65, do you know what I mean? They'll have met at the this rock or the snowstones or the Hitching Stone. Oh, I've said the Hitching Stone, haven't I? The Alcondon rocks, do you know what I mean? Because even when there were trees there were rocks there.
Have you
So
ever heard about Neil Dovestone? Have you ever heard that name before?
Neil,
Neil Dovestone.
no, but I know a place called the Duststone.
No, well, this is it. See, that wasn't his real name. I wrote an article about it for Vice years ago, but he was a guy that was found dead on the moors, but no one knew how he'd got there. Like, he'd basically gone there to die, and there was a whole, like, when they found the body, it took months and months and months for them to be able to identify him, and then they only did that. They could only find out who he was by, in the autopsy, he had an artificial hip, and that traced him to living somewhere in Lancashire. I can't remember where it was, but he lived in Pakistan for a while. That's where he got the hip replacement. And it was a fascinating story because they were basically trying to give this guy like an identity back. And I'm pretty sure they called him Neil Dubstone because of where they found him. But I mean, we follow each other on Twitter. I'll send you this article in your DMs at some point because it's mental if you're fascinated by that area.
I love it because Bolesworth Hills, just on my 40th birthday. Have you heard of an artist called Richard Long?
No.
So he's like a land artist. I think I know where one of his pieces are, but you can't tell because he'll make it out of nature, leave it behind, and nature will have it back. So you might see thing of it.
Yeah.
But before I knew Richard Long, I did this thing where me and my mate, we said we're gonna walk in a straight line, not on the paths. We're going to start at the bottom of this place called Pond and Kirk, and we're going to climb up the rock face and then walk in a straight line to Bolesworth Hill, which is the highest point around there. There's also cave paintings there, but that's a different story. I bet you have got time for that.
I didn't know
But
that though.
yeah, so we're heading this way in a straight line, and it's amazing what you come across, what obstacles. You're more, so there's not a lot of walls up there, but there's like streams and stuff that you wouldn't expect. There's gullies, there's slabs of rock that you have to slide down if you're going in a straight line and climb up the heather on the other side. All this terrain that you wouldn't know. There's like sunken peat bogs and you're sinking in it. And I nearly stood on a barn owl because it was just sat under a like gorilla head of moor grass. Do you know what I mean? And we walked in a straight line and we'd actually come just slightly off course. And I ended up at the Dove Stones. So we just got like some whiskey out and just climbed on the Dove Stones all night. And then we had like a couple of these tarp things like ponchos, and we just slept there till about 5 in the morning, and then climbed a bit more and walked home again. It took us about 5 hours to walk there, but about 3.5 to walk back.
You are. It just feels a little bit like you are living your best life, Tony Wright. Like getting to piss around on the moors, like indulge your interest in art, and then go out and play to loads of people my age that loved your band as a kid at the weekends. That's kind of the dream, really.
Well, I don't get out on the malls as much as I should at the moment, but that's down to me. That's something I need to sort out. But yeah, hopefully I'll get my head around that. But yeah, the malls outside is such an amazing place. When I was a kid, I just wanted to be outside. So now as an adult, you want what they call boglins. I
Yeah,
want to be outside.
yeah, no, yeah, totally. Yeah,
And I couldn't wait to get outside. I hated school. I couldn't get outside. I didn't mind PE. Do you know what I mean? I
yeah.
couldn't wait to get outside. And yeah, I do. I do have. I know how lucky I am. I mean, yeah, I have chaos, which isn't great. Um,
Well, what kind of chaos?
oh my, do you know? Oh, trying to just keep things right. But I've got what would I think if I went to doctors, they'd describe as a scatterbrain.
Right.
Because they're just like, I have so many things to think about, which isn't a problem, but it kind of is because I've got so many things to think about.
I mean,
So,
has anyone ever thrown ADHD at you?
oh, no. But I think when I look back at school, I think they might have tried, probably said something like that. But I think I was genuinely just what back then you were just thick, right? And I never minded being thick because reading was a real problem. I learned to read better once I'd got kids because you're starting the cat again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's not a question of that. I get books every so often, and I'm an idiot because I get a book because I like the cover, and I'm determined to read a book. And I'll get to page 5, but like 11 times, and I will not have retained a single piece of information in that time it's taken. Remember before when I said reading's hard?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm going to believe it. I'm not going to read something else that's not going to agree with this because that was hard work. That's what it's like. But writing, I love writing. I love letters. I love like typography because typography is great. Because, and I've worked with kids like doing these posters. Once I designed these posters for classes that were moving up to the next school. And so the kids had to design a font that was their name. And then, so the teachers, that says, that's like your art. I said, and then you've got to flip it round in your head and do it backwards because it's printed. You can't do it forwards. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You flip it round. And I showed them you can just hold it to a window and copy it. Do you know what I mean? See, draw it right way around, hold it to the window. And then you give it to me, I carve it out, I bring them all back, and I made this form, and you put them all in. the kids would ink it up, and then they'd take a print, they'd pull the print with a proper hand roller, peel it back, and all the names would be on it, stuff like that. And I'd say to them, the typeface is really important, because if you don't speak a language, if you go to Germany, right, and you're walking down a load of shops and you want to go to I don't know, you want to go to some sort of joke shop, right?
Did joke stop still as this?
Yeah, yeah. I'll say you want to go to a funeral parlour, but it's got a typeface that's like Fairground or Joker or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Some crazy, what's it called, Ginger, that font that they used to use on TFI Fridays, all that kind of. You wouldn't, if you saw that outside a funeral parlour, it wouldn't matter. You'd just think it wasn't a funeral parlour. You'd think it was more fun than that, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
It's quite interesting. And it was interesting because when I had to carve these little bits of MDF out with the kids' names on them, I kind of get in the cogs of their brains, and I'm thinking, this is digital letters, like on a digital clock, you know, where they've got the 8 that lights up different. That's like Joe. Joe's going to work in a computer shop or work with computers when he's over. Lauren's done a script, so she's going to be a fashion designer. Do you know what I mean? And then a lot of kids think they've invented bubble writing, but you could see a bit of the character of people. Do you know what I mean? When they were carving them out, and then we printed them. So yeah, I do love letters, just when they're arranged in a really thick thing called a book.
I feel like I just want to talk. I feel like you've got a bit of a Yoda thing going on. I'm sort of like
Yoda.
I feel like I'm well.
Star Wars.
There's something quite zen about you, Tony. I feel like I'm learning about things. It's amazing. I feel there's a few things I should ask you about. I feel very conflicted because, as I said, my wife's got my tea on and I can smell it and it smells amazing. But I
Oh,
kind of don't want to stop talking. But I also feel like I need to squeeze some more music in. So
yeah.
what I was going to propose is, can we do a part 2 at some point?
Yeah, I'm sure we could.
Oh, thank you, mate. I won't dick you around so much when we're trying to sort that out. Um, before I call it, before I call time and go eat this delicious Thai curry, which I can smell wafting through the house. Uh, what are you up to at the moment? Are you? I know you've been doing a bunch of television shows recently, but I mean, I know basically musicians don't see a lot of return for their effort. But are you ever going to make an album again? It's been a long time.
So I just can't, like, songs are something you do or you don't. Do you know what I mean? It's not a thing. You don't have to have a record deal to be a musician or a songwriter. It's just something you do or you don't. My granddad, he was a window cleaner, but he was the best musician I ever knew. He used to say, you can afford, if you can play an instrument, you'll never have to buy a pint. What more do you want? Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean? You
yeah.
can't enough to ask for. And I love that. It's not, it's nothing but he just wants to play music. So I carried on. I do my solo stuff. I do like acoustic songs that are like, I don't know, they're like kit form songs. They're like, you can cut them all out because they're quite simple patterns and make a whatever that song is out of the pattern that's there. It's nothing like, there's no Bohemian Rhapsody in there. There's not a real production, but I quite like doing that. So I've done about 3 of them, although one of them, Millie made me produce it, and I like the other 2.
Right, right.
And then Terrorvision we've just finished recording an album.
Behave.
No, we just finished recording it, and we've got like Chris Sheldon's just finished mixing it. Remember Chris Sheldon?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So he's just finished mixing it, and we'll be putting that out in 24.
So when? So do you know roughly when?
I have no idea. It's like last album we put out was it 2010 or something called Super Deluxe.
2011.
2011 were it? But we're not in a, like we said earlier, you asked me, was it a good time to pack it in? And I mentioned about the people that were loving the rock and roll and coming to the gigs. But for the band wise, that was when you'd sort of run out. You were expected to have an album every year, 18 months.
Yeah.
The record company are going, those two albums have sounded great, let's do more of the same. And you're thinking, well, if you want more of the same, put one of them on, you know what I mean? You've
Yeah,
got
yeah,
it. Listen
yeah,
to that. I thought you'd be able to experiment more. And all that went a bit pear-shaped, didn't it? But we didn't we didn't, once you've got rid of all that music business, you've just got real life. You're not, you inspiration in dressing rooms and buses and the same 20 people. Do you know what I mean? It's meeting new people, it's real life, it's building walls, it's whatever. Um, and it's inspirational. So because it's inspirational, you automatically hear things that you turn into songs because it's like you hear the song really.
yeah.
So so all of us do that. And then over the 10 years, whatever it's been, 12 years, you got enough of them where you go, do you know what? We always did what we wanted. So we've got this crazy bunch of 10 or 12 songs. Let's put them out. So when we've got the mixes back, we're just working on the artwork. And then we've got a full package, and then let's see who we take it to or what we do with it. You know, it's you
Well,
can follow
I
the
think,
internet.
I think when you know what you're doing, we should reconvene for a part two.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Amazing. I'm going to go tell my wife everything that I know about dry stone walling. Uh, Thanks so much for speaking to me, man. And like I say, it's been a real buzz. I loved your band when I had hair and was several stone lighter. But yeah, let's speak again sometime in the future.
No worries. Enjoy your curry.
All right, bud. See you, man. Bye.